Hello everyone, my warmest greetings to all. It's a pleasure to address you today in this very relevant event that will discuss water grabbing and other aspects related to water. I would like to provide you with some background related to the human rights to water and sanitation. As some of you already know, the human rights to water and sanitation was subject of a resolution of the UN General Assembly in 2010. Several countries supported the resolution, and then several countries included those rights in their constitutions or in the ordinary law. So a very large number of countries around the world are binding to these rights and should respect, protect, and fulfill those rights. We can give different interpretations and look at different dimensions of the human rights to water and sanitation. And for instance, when I look at my thematic reports that I submit yearly, one per year to the UN General Assembly and one to the Human Rights Council, I am trying to approach the human rights to water and sanitation through three different angles. One angle is related to what I call drivers for the realization or for the violation of the human rights. For example, next year I will present one report on mega projects, and I'm looking at in which extent mega projects can impact the human rights to water, especially, but also to sanitation. I would say that privatization, that I understand that will be covered in your event, can be also seen as a driver that can impact negatively, usually, the fulfillment of the human rights to water. A second angle is related to policies, and we can think on different aspects of public policies that can realize or violate the human rights to water and sanitation. I prepared a report on regulation, for instance. One report approached the provision of services, looking at the level of the services of water and sanitation that the providers usually adopt. One report was on accountability, that is very related to policies. And we can think on different aspects of politics and policies. For instance, tariff settings, how people with less financial capacity can afford for the services, and so on and so forth. The third angle is about people that live in the most vulnerable situations. This year I submitted a report and presented it to the Human Rights Council in September about forcibly displaced persons, including refugees, IDPs, migrants. And this is a very important concern when we think on the access of these groups of populations to water and sanitation. I also submitted a report on gender that is obviously also related to people and in a very relevant approach. And next year I will submit a report on people that depends on water and sanitation in public spaces. I'm thinking on homeless people, but also vendors, waste pickers, and other groups of people that live or circulate or work on streets, squares, parks, and so on. So these are few examples on how we can approach the human rights to water and sanitation. One important aspect that I think is related to your discussion later on is about the allocation of water. What the framework of the human rights to water and sanitation would say regarding this aspect is that water for human consumption should be given the highest priority in the allocation of water. In other words, when water is used for economic activities like mining, agricultural projects, dams, and other uses, industrial uses, for instance, and water is not allowed people to access for their consumption, for their basic needs, we can frame this situation as a human rights violation. So I think it's important to explore this aspect of the human right to water, because usually it is a neglected aspect, and several governments and funders usually don't take it into consideration that water should be given the highest priority for human consumption, for ingestion, washing, and also to irrigate small crops for subsistence. So these are some elements that I hope can be useful in your discussion, and I really welcome this initiative of discussing water in different angles, and I hope that the human rights to water and sanitation would have a relevant role in that discussion. Goodbye and good luck. See you in other occasions. Bye-bye.